Pseudo Legendary Pokémon have always stood at the crossroads between myth and reality, strong enough to feel legendary, yet still growing and changing alongside their trainers. Tonight, we'll explore the full history, lore, development, and hidden details behind every pseudo-legendary. Dragonite stands as the very first pseudo-legendary Pokemon ever introduced, a symbol of early Game Freak ambition and the blueprint that every future pseudo would follow. When players first encountered its evolutionary line in the original games, few expected that the gentle, round shape of Dragonite would emerge from the mysterious and hard-to-find Dratini, creating one of the most iconic evolutionary surprises in the entire franchise. Behind Dragonite's friendly design lies one of the most powerful Pokémon in Kanto, capable of learning a remarkably large and varied move pool that helped define what pseudo-legendary strength meant before the term even existed. Dragonite embodies the classic dragon fantasy while breaking the expected mold, something that continues to fascinate fans decades later. Dragonite's evolutionary path begins with Dratini, a Pokemon that was intentionally hard to find in the early games, reinforcing the feeling that it was rare and special. The in-game habitat of Dratini, fishing with a super rod in late-game areas like the Safari Zone, was meant to make players work for this eventual powerhouse. That rarity translated into the excitement of evolving Dratini into Dragonair, a form whose serpentine elegance and mystique led many players to imagine its final evolution would follow the same sleek, celestial style. Instead, Dragonite subverted all expectations by appearing as a bright orange, winged dragon resembling a friendly guardian rather than the intimidating serpent many expected. That contrast became a major part of its charm. One of the earliest myths surrounding Dragonite comes from Pokémon Red and Blue, where the Pokédex describes it as a benevolent creature that rescues people lost at sea. This idea of Dragonite as a guardian of ocean travelers reinforced the lore that it's incredibly intelligent, capable of flying for 16 hours straight, and gentle despite immense power. Another Pokédex entry describes an extremely rare giant Dragonite sighted in the distant seas, which became the inspiration behind the giant Dragonite in the original anime's first season, the towering silhouette that approached the lighthouse in Bill's episode. That moment left a deep impression on early Pokémon fans, cementing Dragonite as a creature of mystery as well as strength. Statistically, Dragonite helped define what a pseudo-legendary Pokémon should be, a three-stage evolutionary line with a base stat total of 600, giving it the perfect balance between offense and defense. Dragonite leans into a mix of physical and special power, with high attack, solid bulk, and enough speed to matter when trained properly. In the first generation, one of its most notable competitive features was access to agility, wrap, and thunder wave, enabling tricky, long-form strategies few other Pokémon could replicate. Over time, Dragonite's move pool expanded dramatically, giving it access to elemental punches, Dragon Dance, Outrage, Hurricane, Draco Meteor, Earthquake, and many more. This flexibility is a huge reason it remains relevant, even in the modern era of competitive play. Dragonite also became iconic due to the anime, most notably as Lance's main Pokémon. Lance's Dragonite served as a narrative embodiment of overwhelming power, effortlessly defeating opponents and enforcing the idea that a champion's partner should feel larger than life. Later series continued to highlight Dragonite's nobility and protective nature, with Iris eventually befriending one who started unruly but grew loyal over time. The combination of strength, kindness, and depth of personality made Dragonite a fan favorite across multiple generations of anime arcs. The design of Dragonite reflects a fusion of Western dragon imagery and soft, approachable mascots. Early concept art reveals that Dragonite was always planned as a friendly-looking creature rather than a fierce one, contrasting heavily with Charizard's sharper angles and Salamance's later aggressive design. The soft curves, rounded snout, expressive eyes, and almost teddy bear-like proportions make Dragonite uniquely endearing among dragons. It's a creature players want to befriend, not just battle with. This design philosophy influenced later gentle giants in the franchise, but none captured the same mixture of warmth and power quite like Dragonite. Its abilities also helped maintain its competitive relevance. Inner focus prevented flinching in a metagame dominated by moves like Fake Out, while Multiscale, introduced in Generation 5, transformed Dragonite into a defensive powerhouse by cutting damage taken when at full HP. That one ability allowed Dragonite to set up with Dragon Dance in ways few opponents could stop. Even after the introduction of Fairy types, which dramatically shifted the landscape for Dragon-type Pokémon, Dragonite adapted by incorporating Iron Head, Ice Punch, and its signature high coverage to stay competitive. Its versatility has kept it viable across nearly every generation. Dragonite's shiny form, featuring a striking green body and purple wings, stands as one of the most dramatic shiny color changes in the entire franchise. The contrast between its normal orange and its shiny green gives it an instantly recognizable appearance. Fans have speculated about whether the shiny coloration references dragons from European folklore or simply serves as a bold palette swap to highlight rarity. Whatever the inspiration, shiny Dragonite remains a highly sought after trophy, especially considering the difficulty of shiny hunting in earlier generations. The transition from Dragonair to Dragonite continues to be one of the most discussed evolutionary leaps in the franchise. Dragonair's mystical elegance, long serpentine body, and gem-like accents contrast heavily with Dragonite's playful, rounded appearance. This drastic shift is sometimes explained through fan theories suggesting Dragonite represents a mature form whose body adapts for flight, while Dragonair represents a more magical, ethereal stage of growth. The official lore, however, leaves the transformation intentionally vague, allowing fans to fill the gaps with their own interpretations. That ambiguity contributes to Dragonite's enduring fascination. Dragonite has also appeared in numerous spin-off games, often portrayed as a special or guardian-like figure. In Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, Dragonite is tied to missions involving long-distance travel or rare deliveries, reinforcing its role as a reliable aerial guide. In Pokémon Ranger, it serves as a symbol of powerful but gentle creatures that maintain natural balance. Across all these appearances, Dragonite's personality remains consistent, loyal, wise, and deeply caring toward humans and Pokémon alike. The Dragonite evolutionary line also influenced later Pokémon designs. Salamence, for example, was deliberately designed as a contrast dragon, fierce, angular, and representing the opposite personality spectrum from Dragonite. Garchomp took the concept of a powerful dragon even further by combining reptile and shark inspirations, while Gudra returned to Dragonite's gentle nature. In this way, Dragonite acts as the thematic ancestor of all future pseudo-legendaries, setting the standard against which every later design would be measured. One of Dragonite's most iconic abilities in the lore is its incredible speed. Despite its bulky appearance, Pokédex entries repeatedly describe it flying faster than jets, reaching speeds over 1,500 miles per hour, creating sonic booms as it cuts through the atmosphere. This detail has become one of Dragonite's most memorable lore traits, inspiring fan art and theories about how a creature with such a small wingspan could achieve such velocity. The idea reinforces Dragonite's whimsical nature, It doesn't follow physics, it follows fantasy. Dragonite also holds significance in cultural lore across various Pokémon regions. Some games portray Dragonite as a descendant of ancient dragons revered by sailors. Others mention that Dragonite appears during storms to guide ships towards safe harbors. This ties directly into its ocean guardian mythology and explains why it is so often associated with coastlines, lighthouses, and seafaring culture. Few Pokemon have such a strong connection to maritime legends. In competitive battle history, Dragonite's biggest challenge came with the introduction of fairy types. Suddenly, a type that resisted its strongest moves rendered Dragonite's classic Dragon Dance plus Outrage combo riskier. Yet Dragonite adapted seamlessly, shifting to Fire Punch, Earthquake, Hurricane, or mixed sets to surprise opponents. The constant reinvention proves just how flexible and stable Dragonite's core design really is. Dragonite remains one of the most iconic Pokemon globally. It appears consistently in merchandise, remains a staple on high-ranking competitive teams in multiple formats, and continuously ranks highly in popularity polls. Its mixture of strength, kindness, mythological presence, and lovable appearance makes it a creature that transcends generations of players. Dragonite wasn't just the first pseudo-legendary Pokemon, it was the standard that shaped everything that came after. Its lore, design philosophy, stats, cultural impact, and emotional resonance remain unmatched. Even today, when players encounter a Dragonite soaring above oceans or standing proudly beside a champion, it evokes the same feeling it did in 1996: awe, admiration, and the unmistakable sense that this dragon is something truly special. Tyranitar stands as one of the most iconic pseudo-legendary Pokemon ever created, a towering behemoth of rock and dark energy whose presence alone can reshape the landscape around it. Introduced in Generation 2, it represents a dramatic shift from the gentler feel of Johto's ecosystem, embodying raw, destructive potential wrapped in the form of a dinosaur-like kaiju. Tyranitar has long been compared to film monsters like Godzilla, and that inspiration is clear. It is powerful, territorial, and unchallenged in the habitats it claims as its own. When a Tyranitar roars, mountains tremble, storms shift, and even the bravest Pokemon scatter before its overwhelming presence. Because of this sheer force, Tyranitar's lore often places it at the top of its environment's hierarchy. It doesn't hide from danger or adapt to its surroundings. Instead, its surroundings adapt to it. The Pokédex describes Tyranitar as a Pokémon whose movements can alter the terrain, cracking cliffs and leveling forests simply by walking through them. Massive tremors often follow its steps, which isn't surprising given its colossal weight and surprising mobility. The creature's armor-like hide has been the subject of study in multiple regions, as it is nearly impervious to physical damage. Trainers have attempted to replicate the durability of Tyranitar's scales for protective gear, but even advanced materials fall short of matching its density. Tyranitar's reputation as an unstoppable force conflicts with how it begins life. Its base form, Larvitar, is one of the weakest rock types in existence, requiring it to consume literal mountains of soil to grow. Pupitar then becomes a hardened cocoon, storing immense energy, a pressurized mass ready to erupt. That transformation into Tyranitar symbolizes a dramatic maturation, shifting from vulnerability and dependence to an apex creature capable of reshaping the world around it. Many evolutionary lines in Pokémon symbolize growth, but few represent such an extreme shift in capability. Trainers who raise a Tyranitar often speak about how the Pokémon's personality changes after evolution, becoming vastly more confident and territorial. As a pseudo-legendary, Tyranitar sits among the strongest non-legendary Pokémon ever discovered. With an incredible base stat total of 600, it matches the raw potential of iconic dragons like Dragonite and Garchomp, yet Tyranitar's typing makes it uniquely dangerous. Rock and Dark is an unusual combination, amplifying its offense while giving it surprising defensive resistances. It does carry notable weaknesses, especially to fighting type moves, but Tyranitar's bulk and versatility often allow it to withstand devastating attacks. Throughout competitive history, this Pokemon has consistently remained relevant, adapting to every new generation with new moves, strategies, and team niches. One of Tyranitar's greatest competitive strengths lies in its ability Sandstream. This ability summons a perpetual sandstorm upon entering battle, changing the battlefield instantly. The sand not only damages most opposing Pokemon every turn, but also boosts the special defense of all rock types, including Tyranitar itself. That immediate stat increase allows Tyranitar to tank attacks it normally would not survive. Because of this, it became the cornerstone of sand teams, a dominant strategy in multiple competitive formats. Some of the strongest teams in Pokemon history were built entirely around maximizing the power of Sandstream, and Tyranitar was the Pokemon that made it all possible. Even beyond its competitive legacy, Tyranitar's moveset remains one of the most flexible among pseudo-legendaries. It can attack physically with devastating power, using moves like Crunch, Stone, Edge, Earthquake, and Superpower. But it can also run special attacks, surprising opponents with Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, or Ice Beam, coverage rarely expected from a Pokemon of its build. That dual potential makes Tyranitar unpredictable and extremely hard to counter. Some trainers use defensive Tyranitar sets with recovery through rest, while others unleash its full fury with Dragon Dance. Few pseudo-legendaries boast so many viable strategies, and fewer still have maintained relevance across so many generations. Its Mega Evolution adds an even greater layer of complexity. Mega Tyranitar becomes a hulking fortress of raw power and intimidation, amplifying nearly every stat. Its design thickens its armor, sharpens its spikes, and increases the ferocity of its silhouette. The change enhances everything that makes Tyranitar iconic: strength, durability, and presence. Mega Tyranitar gains enough attack to rival some of the strongest Pokemon ever created, able to destroy even bulky opponents with effortless ease. Competitive formats that allowed Mega Evolution saw Mega Tyranitar become a dominant force in late game sweeping roles, especially after a Dragon Dance. Mega Tyranitar essentially represents the idea of a kaiju fully unleashed. Its lore in the Pokemon world also paints Tyranitar as a creature that respects nothing except power. It frequently clashes with powerful wild Pokemon and has been known to enter cities simply out of boredom, leaving destruction wherever it walks. Yet it is not inherently malicious. Tyranitar is simply indifferent to its surroundings. It does not seek to harm others, it just doesn't consider them at all. This makes it one of the most dangerous Pokemon to encounter in the wild. Trainers must be extremely skilled to raise one responsibly, as a Tyranitar's strength requires careful guidance. Left unchecked, it may act impulsively, unaware of the effect of its own power. Interestingly, Tyranitar has appeared in several major Pokemon media adaptations as a symbol of overwhelming might. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, Tyranitar is often portrayed as a powerhouse capable of going head-to-head with legendary Pokemon. In the games, Tyranitar is frequently used by champions or high-ranking trainers, reinforcing its elite status. Even in spin-off titles like Pokemon Colosseum, its presence gives weight to the idea that only the strongest trainers can tame it. It becomes a badge of honor, a Pokemon that says more about its trainer's skill than words ever could. Tyranitar's cultural presence goes even further. Fans often rank it among the coolest, pseudo legendaries due to its design, power, and kaiju like inspiration. Its shiny form, replacing green armor with a pale, sand like hue, is reminiscent of desert titans or fossilized monsters, adding an ancient quality to its appearance. Its towering, spike covered body appears engineered for intimidation, but with enough expression in its eyes to show intelligence and pride. That blend of danger and personality is part of what makes Tyranitar so iconic. Its rivalry with other pseudo legendaries is also interesting. While Dragonite symbolizes kindness and balance, Tyranitar represents raw, uncontrolled force. Metagross symbolizes logic and precision, while Tyranitar symbolizes instinct and power. Garchomp represents speed and aggressive offense, yet Tyranitar represents unstoppable defense and destructive pressure. Every pseudo embodies a specific combat philosophy, and Tyranitar's philosophy is simple: overwhelming might. Tyranitar's relationship with nature is one of the stranger aspects of its lore. Despite being a rock type, it prefers mountainous, forested, or canyon environments where it can roam freely. Its presence often reshapes these landscapes dramatically. Landslides, broken cliffs, and displaced wildlife frequently follow in its wake. This destructive footprint is so consistent that some ecosystems have adapted around the Pokemon's behavior. There are documented cases of forests regrowing in patterns that match the routes Tyranitar regularly walks, almost as if nature flows around it, not the other way around. Some myths even portray Tyranitar as a protector, not of humans, but of the natural world itself. These ancient stories claim Tyranitar would awaken during natural disasters, battling other destructive forces to restore balance. Whether these tales are literal or metaphorical remains unclear, but they hint at a deeper relationship between Tyranitar and the world it dominates. Its pre-evolution, Pupitar, also adds an interesting layer to the lore. Pupitar's pressurized body stores so much energy that it can propel itself like a rocket, making it capable of incredible speed despite its cocoon-like structure. That pressure, once released, is what forms Tyranitar's immense physical strength. Some researchers theorize that Tyranitar's armor is formed from energy crystallization, hardened and layered through constant pressure during evolution. In terms of intelligence, Tyranitar is far from mindless. It is deliberate, cunning, and capable of reading opponents well enough to choose destructive moves with surprising precision. Trainers report that Tyranitar often tests its own strength, smashing boulders or pushing against mountain walls, almost as if mapping its limits or ensuring there are none. Its signature presence in the Pokemon world leaves an impact, sometimes literally, wherever it appears. Whether as a guardian kaiju, a competitive titan, or a cultural icon, Tyranitar embodies a unique blend of ferocity, pride, and unstoppable force. Its legacy within the pseudo-legendary family is secure. It is the embodiment of overwhelming power, a creature whose roar can shake mountains and whose footsteps reshape the land. Salamence has always been one of the most dramatic and emotionally charged pseudo-legendaries in the entire franchise, a Pokemon whose very existence represents the triumph of willpower over limitation. Its lore begins not with strength, but with longing. For generations, Bagon, the lowest stage of Salamence's evolutionary line, was known as a creature obsessed with the idea of flight, even though it lacked wings and had no biological means of leaving the ground. Its Pokédex entries repeatedly describe Bagon hurling itself off cliffs out of sheer determination, not in anger or recklessness, but in hope. That repeated image of a small, stubborn Pokémon, throwing itself toward the sky over and over again, has become one of the most iconic pieces of evolutionary storytelling in the series. For Salamence, flight isn't just a biological upgrade, it's the physical manifestation of a dream that defined its entire species. The emotional weight of Salamence's evolution continues to be one of its most defining traits. Unlike many Pokemon that simply grow stronger or larger when they evolve, Salamence's transformation into a fully winged dragon is portrayed as a kind of miracle. Shelgon, the cocoon-like middle stage, exists solely to incubate the overwhelming energy Bagon has accumulated through its persistent desire to fly. When Shelgon finally evolves, the sudden eruption of wings is often described as an evolutionary release, stored determination, exploding outward into form. Canon Pokedex notes say Salamence is so overwhelmed with joy upon evolution that it sometimes takes flight in wild, uncontrolled patterns, unable to handle the sheer emotion of finally achieving the sky. Few Pokemon evolutions feel as personal and as symbolic as Salamence's ascent. In battle, Salamence's personality shifts from dreamer to apex predator. Its dragon, flying typing grants it immense mobility, and its stats emphasize raw, offensive strength. With a high base attack and special attack paired with an impressive speed stat, Salamence became one of the most feared sweepers in competitive play from its very first appearance in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. It didn't take long for players to discover how dangerous it could be. Moves like Dragon Claw, Earthquake, and Flamethrower allowed it to break through nearly any defensive core, while Intimidate made it surprisingly durable upon switching in. This combination of power and tactical flexibility made Salamence a defining force in early competitive formats, permanently shaping how players built teams during the third and fourth generations. Its mega evolution in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire elevated that fearsome reputation into something almost mythic. Mega Salamence gained a crescent-shaped wing structure resembling a glider, an aerodynamic form that emphasized its overwhelming speed and precision. Its new Aerolate ability turned all normal-type moves into flying-type attacks, including the devastating Double Edge, which suddenly became a high-powered stab move with unmatched destruction potential. Mega Salamence's presence was so overwhelming that it was quickly recognized as one of the most oppressive threats in competitive play, eventually earning the title of one of the fastest Pokemon ever banned from standard tiers. Its dominance was not subtle, it was complete, turning battles into breathtaking aerial assaults that few teams could survive. Despite its strength, Salamence's lore continues to emphasize its emotional roots rather than its combat capabilities. Many Pokédex descriptions mention that Salamence sometimes loses control when overwhelmed with excitement, circling the sky in wide, looping patterns that resemble celebratory dances. This contrasts with its intimidating battlefield presence, reminding players that beneath the fierce appearance is a creature whose primary joy is simply the ability to fly. Some regions' folklore reinterpret Salamence as a symbol of perseverance, used in stories meant to teach children about patience and determination. The idea that a small, grounded creature could one day command the sky resonates deeply with many fans, making Salamence not only powerful, but inspiring. Salamence's design draws from classic European dragon archetypes: large wings, powerful jaw, bold coloration, but its bright red wings set it apart visually from many other dragons in the series. The contrast between its sky blue body and its vibrant wings gives it an immediately recognizable silhouette. The wing placement also reflects its aggressive flying style. Salamence doesn't glide gracefully like Dragonite or Garchomp, nor does it soar solemnly like Rayquaza. It cuts through the sky with force, often described as a Pokemon that flies because it refuses not to. This intensity makes it feel alive in a way that resonates with fans who appreciate evolution stories grounded in emotion rather than biology alone. In the Hoenn region, Salamence is commonly associated with wild, untamed areas such as Meteor Falls, hinting at its deep connection to ancient carving sites and meteorological legends. Some theories suggest that Bagan's longing for flight may have originated from ancestral memories of older dragons that once ruled Hoenn's skies. While this idea is not confirmed, it adds another layer of mystique to Salamence's evolutionary story. Perhaps it wasn't just desire, but inheritance. In a region filled with mythical beings like Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre, Salamence stands out because it achieved greatness not through power bestowed at birth, but through sheer determination. Its role in various Pokemon media further strengthens its legacy. In the anime, Salamence is frequently portrayed as a fierce and disciplined partner. Characters like Drake of the Elite Four use Salamence to showcase strategic mastery and overwhelming aerial combat. Villains also make use of Salamence's imposing presence. Team Rocket and Team Galactic have featured it in major arcs, leveraging its intimidating appearance to create tension. In the Pokemon movies, especially in Destiny Deoxys and Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, Salamence is depicted as a force of nature, fierce, fast, and almost impossible to evade once angered. One of the most memorable Salamence appearances in the anime involved a sudden and dangerous evolution event, where a previously gentle Bagon transformed into a Salamence mid-battle and immediately lost control, unleashing its newfound power wildly. This scene highlighted the emotional core of Salamence's story, the intense and sometimes overwhelming feelings that come with achieving a lifelong dream. It also hinted at the challenges of raising a Salamence. Trainers must be prepared to guide its volatile joy into focus and discipline. Salamence's shiny form has become wildly popular among fans thanks to its striking green coloration. While many dragon shinies lean toward darker, more muted tones, Salamence's vibrant green wings and contrasting teal body stand out as bold and energetic. Some fans interpret this version as reflecting a more peaceful evolution, while others simply enjoy the vivid color shift. Either way, shiny Salamence remains a favorite target for hunters, especially in Hoenn-based games, where its entire evolutionary line can be encountered in unique and atmospheric locations. Competitively, Salamence continues to evolve across generations. While power creep and new mechanics have created strong counters to it, Salamence remains relevant due to its ability to compress roles effectively. It can act as a wall breaker, speedy sweeper, defensive pivot with Intimidate, or mixed attacker depending on team needs. Many veteran players describe Salamence as a true Hoenn classic, a Pokemon that defined an era and continues to inspire respect even in modern formats filled with faster and more specialized threats. Lore enthusiasts continue to debate one of the most interesting symbolic questions surrounding Salamence. Does it represent the ideal of achieving one's dreams, or the danger of wanting something so intensely that it consumes you? The answer, as many fans conclude, is both. Salamence is a reminder that passion must be balanced with discipline, that power must be guided by self-awareness. It achieved the ability to fly, but it must continually learn to control the emotions that come with that power. That duality makes Salamence one of the most human pseudo-legendaries, flawed, determined, powerful, and constantly evolving not just physically, but emotionally. And perhaps that is why Salamence remains one of the most beloved dragons in the franchise. It isn't just strong, Many Pokemon are strong. It isn't just iconic, many Pokemon are iconic. What makes Salamence unforgettable is its narrative. A small Pokemon that dreamed of the sky so fiercely that it changed its destiny. It teaches that desire can shape evolution, that effort can transcend limitations, and that dreams, even impossible ones, deserve to be chased with everything you have. Metagross has always stood out as one of the most intimidating pseudo-legendary Pokemon ever created, not through raw aggression, but through an overwhelming sense of intellect and precision. When you look at its design, everything about it communicates structure, logic, and purpose. This isn't a creature that acts on instinct or emotion. It is a living machine of calculation, four brains working in perfect harmony, forming a single entity capable of processing information at speeds that rival supercomputers in the Pokemon world. Even among pseudo-legendaries, which are all known for extraordinary power, Metagross feels fundamentally different. It represents intelligence as force, thought as weapon, and strategy as identity. The origins of Metagross lie in Beldum and Meting, two stages that already hint at the hybrid nature of the evolutionary line. Instead of growing in the typical biological sense, Metagross becomes stronger by combining two Beldum fuse into Metang and two Metang fuse into Metagross, giving it a total of four brains, four bodies, and an interconnected neural system that functions like a living network. This fusion-based evolution is one of the most unusual in the franchise, reinforcing the idea that Metagross is not just a creature, but an engineered organism of the natural world, blending metal and biology into something truly unique. Metagross's incredible intelligence is more than flavor text. It's part of its battle philosophy. It is said to anticipate its opponent's movements with near-perfect accuracy, using simultaneous processing from its four brains to predict patterns and simulate outcomes. Fans often compare it to a chess grandmaster, seeing several moves ahead and responding with calm, calculated precision. Its movements in battle reflect this mentality: strategic, minimalistic, and efficient. When Metagross strikes, it's never random. It acts only when the probability of success is optimal, making it feel less like a Pokemon and more like an artificial intelligence with physical form. One of the most defining traits of Metagross is its incredible physical power, created by its unique anatomy. Despite being partially metallic, Metagross doesn't feel heavy or sluggish. Instead, its limbs function like hydraulic pistons, capable of exerting immense force. The Pokédex famously describes how Metagross can pin its prey under its massive body and restrict airflow until the foe is immobilized. While the description sounds intimidating, it emphasizes the same themes seen across its entire design. Metagross wins by control, not chaos. It secures dominance through pressure and certainty, leaving nothing to chance. Metagross's typing Steel, Psychic, is one of the strongest combinations in the series, both thematically and mechanically. Steel represents strength, durability, and resilience, while Psychic symbolizes intelligence, awareness, and mental discipline. Together, they form a perfect symbiosis of mind and matter. Metagross resists many types, hits hard with both physical and mental attacks, and has a defensive presence few Pokemon can rival. It is the embodiment of balance, intellectual precision paired with brute mechanical force. The Steel typing plays a major role in Metagross's lore. Fans have long speculated that Metagross may have originated from ancient extraterrestrial metals, especially since Beldum has magnet-based biology similar to the Magnemite line. While the Pokemon Company has never confirmed alien origins, the robotic aesthetic and magnetic physiology strongly suggest something beyond normal evolution. Even in Hoenn, Where it first appeared, Metagross feels like a Pokémon not completely of this world, an organism shaped by forces outside the ordinary rules of nature, perhaps even connected to the meteor themes seen throughout the region's lore. Metagross's debut in Generation 3 marked one of the earliest examples of a champion using a pseudo-legendary Pokémon as their ace. Stephen Stone, the Hoenn champion known for his love of rare stones and minerals, uses Metagross as his signature Pokémon. This pairing is one of the most thematically fitting relationships in the franchise. Stephen values precision, beauty, and unwavering strength qualities mirrored perfectly by Metagross. The battles against Stephen's Metagross remain some of the most iconic in Pokemon history, largely because the Pokemon feels like the final exam of Hoenn, a test of endurance, intelligence, and strategy. Stephen's Metagross also plays a major role in the Pokemon Adventures manga, where it demonstrates incredible strength and acts as a powerful partner in intense battles. The manga often amplifies a Pokemon's thematic traits, and Metagross is portrayed as frighteningly intelligent, almost weapon-like in its ability to read situations. This portrayal reinforced fan perception of Metagross as one of the most formidable pseudo-legendaries ever created. The introduction of Mega Metagross in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire took all of these traits and enhanced them dramatically. When Stephen triggers its Mega Evolution, the creature transforms into something even more mechanical and imposing, adding more limbs, increasing mass, and further amplifying its psychic processing capabilities. Mega Metagross is described as using its enhanced intelligence to consider every possible move at the same time, acting only when its calculations yield an optimal outcome. Its attack stat skyrockets, its speed improves, and its design becomes one of the fiercest looking Mega Evolutions in the franchise. Mega Metagross is especially notable for how its increase in limbs changes its locomotion. Instead of walking, it glides or rotates across the battlefield like a levitating machine, maintaining perfect balance in any position. The sheer power of Mega Metagross made it one of the strongest and most feared Mega Evolutions in competitive history, dominating the meta during early Oros formats due to its overwhelming stats, coverage, and resistances. Despite its mechanical appearance, Metagross is not emotionless. The anime occasionally shows it forming bonds with trainers, responding to trust and teamwork. Its intelligence allows it to understand commands beyond simple battle cues, reading subtle changes in tone and gesture. Trainers describe Metagross as decisive, protective, and loyal when treated with respect. It may not express affection the way a more organic Pokemon might, but its loyalty is unshakable once earned. That duality emotion emerging from intellect adds depth to its character. Even in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, Metagross maintains its reputation as an imposing presence. Often appearing as a leader or guardian figure, it brings order and discipline wherever it appears. The games portray its intelligence in a more narrative way, showing how Metagross analyzes situations methodically and acts in ways that maximize success for its allies. Its strategic mind makes it a natural problem solver in stories that require logic, bravery, and stability. Metagross's design is one of the most heavily discussed in fan communities due to its blend of biological and technological aesthetics. Some interpret the X on its face as a symbol of authority or a visual representation of its reinforced structure. Others see it as an emotional mask hiding whatever thought processes occur behind its metallic shell. Whatever the intention, the design is iconic, recognizable instantly, and perfectly aligned with its lore. Its shiny form, featuring silver body plating and golden accents, reinforces the idea of advanced, luxurious machinery like a premium version of an already powerful construct. Many trainers who obtain a shiny Metagross feel a sense of pride, not only because the shiny is rare, but because the color palette suits its personality so well. Metagross's competitive legacy is long and impressive. Throughout multiple generations, it has remained relevant thanks to its powerful combination of stats and typing. Even in generations where power creep or meta shifts change the viability of many Pokémon, Metagross continues to reappear as a reliable force. Its versatility as both a tank and a powerful attacker ensures it always finds a place in skilled hands. Its lore includes details about how it can float by using magnetic forces, allowing it to move in any direction and position upside down, sideways, or hovering motionless. This flexibility gives it an otherworldly feel, making it seem more like an autonomous drone or satellite than a living creature. And yet, despite all this engineered precision, Metagross still feels like a Pokemon, not a robot. It has instincts, it has identity, and it has a presence that commands respect. Metagross has appeared in many iconic battles throughout the anime, including notable roles in the Hoenn League and multiple champion-level fights. Its animations often emphasize its weight and power, showing it crashing into foes or pinning them down with overwhelming force. But even during explosive action scenes, Metagross remains expressionless, its emotional neutrality adding a dramatic contrast to the chaos around it. Over the years, Metagross has become a favorite among fans who appreciate Pokemon with a darker, more mysterious tone. It's powerful, intelligent, and iconic, yet always maintains an air of quiet calculation. Its theme across all media remains consistent: intellect fused with metal, logic fused with force, strategy fused with instinct. Among pseudo-legendaries, Metagross occupies a unique niche. Tyranitar represents brute power, Dragonite represents friendliness and balance, Salamence represents ferocity and flight. But Metagross represents intellect, cold, efficient, indomitable intellect. It is the pseudo-legendary for players who enjoy strategy, prediction, and mental gameplay. Even its presence in merchandise reflects this identity. Figures of Metagross often feature sharp angles and metallic textures, capturing its imposing shape. The Pokémon Center occasionally releases chrome or metal-inspired versions to emphasize its mechanical nature. Everything about Metagross suggests a Pokémon that is less a creature and more a force, an entity constructed by nature to think, act, and dominate through precision. And yet, beneath all its intelligence and power lies something deeply Pokemon-like: loyalty to its trainer, commitment to its allies, and a sense of purpose that goes far beyond its intimidating exterior. It remains one of the most iconic pseudo-legendaries ever created, a symbol of intellect as strength, and a testament to how powerful design and lore can blend into something unforgettable. Garchomp has always stood out as one of the most intimidating and efficient pseudo-legendaries ever created, a creature designed with pure aerodynamic savagery in mind. From the moment it was introduced in Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, Garchomp redefined what a dragon type could be, blending shark-like predatory instincts with the streamlined body of a supersonic jet. Its design is a fusion of fear and finesse, a Pokémon whose silhouette looks like it's already moving even when completely still. Fans often point out how deceptively sleek it is compared to its power level, a pseudo-legendary that feels both wild and precise, like a living missile honed by evolution instead of engineering. One of the most iconic traits of Garchomp is its incredible speed, which defies the expectations of its bulky, reptilian frame. In the lore, it's said that a running Garchomp can move faster than the speed of sound, its wings flattening against its body to reduce drag. The Pokédex even describes it slicing through the air so quickly that it causes a sonic boom, leaving trainers stunned by something so large, moving with such terrifying efficiency. Its wings aren't used for conventional flight, but instead act as stabilizers, turning its leaps and glides into predatory swoops. Garchomp essentially swims through the atmosphere, creating an entirely unique aerial fighting style that mirrors sharks slicing through water. Garchomp's predatory nature is emphasized repeatedly in its regional lore. In the wild, it builds nests in cave systems or mountain ridges, stockpiling prey and treasures it claims during territorial patrols. Many trainers compare its instinctive behavior to that of real world apex predators, stalking targets, launching devastating ambushes, and defending territory with relentless ferocity. Yet, despite that feral edge, Garchomp is known to be intensely loyal once trained properly. It forms deep bonds with skilled trainers, recognizing strength and leadership in ways that mirror pack hunting creatures. Those who earn its respect often find it becoming one of the most dependable partners in the entire Pokemon world. Cynthia's Garchomp is perhaps the most legendary example of its power, and its presence alone transformed the perception of pseudo legendaries. As the ace of the Sinnoh Champions team, it became infamous for sweeping unprepared players with ruthless efficiency. Its combination of typing, move pool, and overwhelming stats made it the first pseudo to define an entire region's competitive identity. In the anime, Cynthia's Garchomp is portrayed as graceful yet devastating, capable of both refined technique and overwhelming force. It can dodge attacks with impressive agility, then retaliate with explosive power, a perfect representation of what makes Garchomp iconic. Typing has always played a central role in Garchomp's dominance. Dragon Ground is an exceptionally strong pairing that gives it stab access to moves like Earthquake and Dragon Claw while providing key resistances and immunities. Although it brings a harsh vulnerability to ice attacks, one of the most famous quad weaknesses in the entire series, its offensive power, speed, and flexibility generally outweigh that flaw. Garchomp's move pool enhances this even further, with options like Stone Edge, Fire Fang, Crunch, Poison Jab, and Iron Head, allowing it to adapt easily to any team role. Whether running physical sweep sets, bulky sets, or utility moves like Stealth Rock, Garchomp remains one of the most versatile pseudo-legendaries ever created. Mega Garchomp, introduced in Generation 6, pushed the species to even greater extremes. Upon Mega evolving, its sleek design becomes more jagged and powerful, emphasizing raw force over aerodynamic precision. Its arms sharpen into massive scythes, and its jaw becomes even more pronounced, giving it the appearance of a prehistoric weapon brought to life. Mega Evolution boosts its attack and special attack dramatically, turning it into a wrecking machine capable of obliterating almost anything in its path. Yet, in a fascinating twist, its speed drops, reflecting the idea that Mega Garchomp prioritizes overwhelming power rather than its base form's jet-like elegance. Competitive players often debate which form is superior, but both are undeniably some of the strongest designs in the franchise. In battle, Garchomp's reputation precedes it. From Generation 4 through modern formats, it has consistently hovered near the top of competitive viability charts, often being classified as too strong for standard play in early meta discussions. Its combination of bulk, speed, and power created an almost unmatched level of pressure. Many trainers recall their first time experiencing an opposing Garchomp setting up Swords Dance or firing off a boosted Earthquake, often describing the moment as a turning point in their understanding of competitive battling. It's not just strong, it changes how people play. In the wild, Garchomp's ecology paints it as both a guardian and a predator. While it fiercely protects its territory, it also watches over younger Gibble in the wild, guiding them in how to navigate their rocky environments. This nurturing behavior contrasts sharply with its terrifying combat potential, making Garchomp feel like a real creature with instincts, environmental purpose, and familial roles. It also explains why wild packs of Garchomp are considered extremely dangerous, not only because of their strength, but because they communicate with surprising intelligence, coordinating their movements like a tactical unit. Design inspirations for Garchomp pull from multiple sources: land sharks, jet fighters, and even kaiju. Its head crest resembles a jet stabilizer, its wings mimic swept back aircraft fins, and its jawline references both hammerhead sharks and raptors. This blending of concepts creates a creature that feels fast, primal, and engineered at the same time, one of the rare Pokemon designs that perfectly marries fantasy with believable biological structure. Garchomp is often described by fans as the coolest pseudo legendary aesthetically, because every detail contributes to its theme without feeling exaggerated or out of place. In various spin off games, Garchomp maintains its reputation. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, it appears as a formidable boss encounter and a capable ally. In Pokemon Go, it's considered one of the best ground type attackers ever released, dominating raids and PvP battles for years. Even in Pokemon Unite, where many pseudo legendaries are reinterpreted for MOBA style gameplay, Garchomp is still portrayed as a powerful, relentless fighter with remarkable late game potential. Its cultural impact is enormous. Garchomp consistently ranks among fan favorite Pokemon, often sitting near the top of global polls. Merchandise of Garchomp sells extremely well, and its presence in the anime has solidified it as one of the most iconic modern Pokemon. Unlike some pseudo legendaries that rely on lore or mysticism for popularity, Garchomp's appeal comes from its design purity, the perfect fusion of dragon and predator, strength and speed, elegance and ferocity. Even today, nearly 2 decades after its introduction, Garchomp remains one of the definitive pseudo legendaries. It shaped competitive battling, elevated Sinnoh's regional identity, and secured a place in Pokemon history as one of the most perfectly executed designs Game Freak has ever created. Whether soaring through the air like a living missile, guarding its territory with unwavering loyalty, or serving as a player's strongest partner in battle, Garchomp represents the height of pseudo-legendary excellence: fast, fierce, intelligent, and endlessly iconic. Gudra is one of the most unusual pseudo-legendaries ever created, a creature that breaks nearly every expectation associated with the role. While most pseudos are built around raw physical dominance, monstrous presence, or combat-oriented instincts, Gudra is the opposite: soft, gentle, affectionate, and emotionally expressive. Yet, despite its disarming appearance and kind behavior, it possesses the full power expected of a pseudo legendary Pokemon. That contrast between adorable and overwhelmingly strong makes Gudra one of the most memorable dragon types in the series. Its entire existence challenges what people believe a powerhouse should look like, proving that strength can coexist with softness. Gudra's evolutionary line begins with Gumi, widely known as one of the physically weakest dragon-type Pokemon ever documented. Gumi's fragile body and lack of natural defense make its status as the starting stage of a pseudo even more surprising. But this frailty plays an important role in understanding Gudra's character. Its power is not inherited from toughness, but developed through adaptation and emotional bonding. As Gumi evolves into Sliggoo, its biology begins to respond differently to environmental moisture and weather conditions. Sliggoo's shell-like structure forms around its body, helping it stabilize regional humidity and temperature. This stage hints at the biological transformation that will eventually make Gudra a formidable tank. One of the most unique details about Sliggoo's evolution is its reliance on weather rather than experience or location alone. To evolve into Gudra, Sliggoo must level up while it is raining. This mechanic emphasizes Gudra's deep connection to water-rich environments. Unlike most dragon types, who thrive in heat, storms, or mountain territories, Gudra's environment must be humid and nurturing. The rain-based evolution implies that Gudra emerges when conditions are gentle rather than harsh. It is a pseudo-legendary born not from conflict, but from comfort. That detail alone sets it apart from species like Dragonite or Salamence, whose evolutionary catalysts are linked more closely to growth, determination, or aerial aspirations. Gudra's design reflects the idea of liquid-based biology. Its entire body operates on a gel-like structure, giving it flexibility and impact absorption far beyond most Pokémon. When struck by a physical attack, Gudra doesn't simply resist its body, literally cushions the blow, distributing kinetic energy throughout its form. This mechanism explains why Gudra has exceptionally high special defense and respectable overall bulk. Researchers in Kalos note that its slime coating is both protective and emotionally expressive. The viscosity changes depending on Gudra's feelings. When happy, its slime becomes thinner and more slippery. When upset, it thickens, creating a subtle visual signal for partners who understand it. This emotional component makes Gudra one of the most empathetic Pokémon in existence. The Pokédex repeatedly emphasizes its affectionate nature, noting that Gudra forms extremely strong bonds with trainers and other Pokémon. It is known to greet companions with long, sticky hugs that leave everyone covered in slime. While this can be unpleasant for some, Gudra's intentions are pure. Its slime is a literal extension of its affection. Trainers often describe Gudra as behaving more like a giant plush creature than a battle powerhouse. But beneath that sweetness lies an ability to unleash devastating attacks when someone it cares for is threatened. Because of its gentle nature, Gudra prefers defensive battle strategies. Its stat distribution gives it a high special defense, the highest of any pseudo-legendary, and strong mixed offensive potential. Moves like Dragon Pulse, Muddy Water, Thunderbolt, and Fire Blast allow Gudra to counter nearly every type of opponent. Its move pool is surprisingly diverse, enabling it to strike threats outside its natural typing. That versatility makes Gudra an ideal Pokémon for trainers who favor flexible strategies rather than predictable patterns. Even its abilities contribute to its adaptability. Sap Sipper grants immunity to grass-type moves while boosting its attack, and hydration allows Gudra to shed status conditions in the rain, reinforcing its deep connection to humid environments. Gudra's gentle personality often misleads opponents into underestimating it. The contrast between its soft, friendly demeanor and its powerful combat potential creates an element of surprise. In its debut generation, Gudra was frequently misjudged by players unfamiliar with its defensive strengths. But once competitive scenes recognized its ability to absorb hits and respond with power, Gudra earned a reputation as one of the most resilient pseudos ever introduced. Even today, Gudra remains a great example of unconventional design, its emotional intelligence and defensive focus showing that not all dragons need to embody aggression. The Hisuian Gudra variant, introduced in Pokémon Legends, Arceus expanded its lore dramatically. This regional form merges Gudra's gooey biology with a steel-like shell structure, representing an evolutionary adaptation to harsher environments. Hisuian Gudra retains its gentle temperament, but becomes more introverted and cautious. The heavy metallic shell functions as both a home and a defensive barrier. According to lore, Hisuian Gudra often carries smaller or weaker Pokemon inside the shell to protect them from harm. This behavior deepens its reputation as a guardian species, emphasizing protectiveness rather than aggression. Hisuian Gudra's, typing dragon, steel makes it one of the most defensively powerful combinations in the entire franchise. This form boasts excellent resilience and a new set of resistances, transforming Gudra into a tank that can endure and counter nearly any attack. Its Pokédex entries describe it as heartbreakingly loyal, so emotionally attached that it becomes distressed when separated from those it cares about. This emotional vulnerability contrasts sharply with its physical strength, creating one of the most complex personalities in dragon type history. Hisuian Gudra is a Pokemon whose strength is inseparable from its love, a creature that fights fiercely because it cannot bear to see others hurt. The introduction of Hisuian Gudra also recontextualizes the entire evolutionary line. In ancient Hisui, environmental threats were more extreme, requiring Pokemon to develop both emotional resilience and physical fortitude. The steel shell symbolizes Gudra's willingness to evolve not from aggression, but from the need to protect its companions. This theme echoes throughout the world building of Legends. Arceus, where Pokemon often adapt to survive in ways rooted in cooperation rather than conquest. Gudra's Hisuian form supports that narrative by evolving into a living fortress that shields its loved ones. Gudra's emotional expressiveness also plays a central role in its portrayal in the anime. Ash's Gudra, introduced in the Kalos season, is one of the most beloved Pokemon companions of the era. It demonstrated extraordinary levels of loyalty, empathy, and courage, often crying when emotional and hugging its teammates enthusiastically. Despite its soft personality, Ash's Gudra was a fierce battler, proving its worth in major matches and protecting entire regions during major plot arcs. This portrayal helped audiences appreciate Gudra as a Pokemon whose heart is just as powerful as its abilities. The anime emphasized that vulnerability and kindness do not negate strength, they complement it. One of Gudra's most iconic characteristics is its slime coating, which serves as both biological protection and emotional communication. The slime is non-toxic and is sometimes used in Colossian medicine, where researchers discovered that its compounds can soothe minor skin irritation. This has led to the idea that Gudra may have healing properties, although this is not confirmed canonically. Still, the concept aligns with Gudra's overall theme, a dragon that helps rather than harms. Trainers who bond with Gudra often describe its slime as warm and surprisingly comforting, almost like a weighted blanket. The slime layer also protects Gudra from burns, physical trauma, and dehydration. Gudra's origins may be inspired by several real-world creatures and myths. Many fans speculate that it is based on the loup carcole, a slimy serpentine creature from French folklore associated with caves and humidity, fitting for a Pokemon originating in Kalos. Others see similarities to gastropods, such as slugs and snails, which thrive in moist environments and produce protective mucus. The combination of French folklore and biological inspiration creates a Pokemon that feels both mythical and natural, grounded in both fantasy and ecology. Gudra also represents the emotional evolution of dragon-type design in Pokemon. Earlier pseudos like Dragonite, Salamence, and Garchomp embodied traditional power fantasies, fierce, intimidating dragons meant for battle. Gudra breaks the mold by being gentle and affectionate. It demonstrates the franchise's shift toward more diverse interpretations of strength. Gudra isn't feared, it's loved. And that approach to power deeply resonates with fans who see Gudra as a symbol of empathy, kindness, and resilience. Even today, Gudra remains an example of how Pokemon design thrives when it challenges expectations. It is a protector rather than a destroyer, a tank created from affection rather than aggression. In a roster filled with fierce dragons, Gudra stands out because it embraces vulnerability without sacrificing power. Whether in its Kalos form or Hisuian form, Gudra continues to remind trainers that true strength often comes from compassion. Kamao stands apart even among pseudo legendaries, not just because of its imposing appearance, but because of how deeply its design is entwined with ancient tradition. Where many pseudo legendaries evoke raw power, speed, or ferocity, Kamo-O represents discipline, honor, and ritual. Its body is covered in layered scales that resemble shields, each one polished, hardened, and shaped through years of battle. These scales aren't only defensive armor, they are trophies of growth. According to Alolan lore, Komao adds new scales after major accomplishments, almost like a warrior marking milestones in their journey. That's why no two wild Komao look exactly the same. Their scales tell individual stories. Komo's origin in the Alola region ties it closely to the island's volcanic terrain. Jangmo-o, its first stage, is said to seek out quiet, secluded places where echoes bounce cleanly off rocky walls. It trains alone, listening to the reverberations of its own cries, learning to understand the world through sound. Hakamo-o continues this ritual, turning its scales into instruments of rhythm and movement. But it is Kamo-o, the final evolution, that fully embodies this identity, wielding sound itself as a weapon and symbol of authority. The clang of its scales is so iconic that its signature move, clanging scales, is described not merely as noise, but as a battle hymn. The connection between Komo-o and sound runs deeper than mechanics. Ancient Alolan legends claim that Komo-o once guarded the people from dark spirits that fed on silence. Whether this is metaphorical or refers to a real threat long forgotten, the underlying theme is clear. Noise represented life, strength, and protection. Kamo-o's intense roars and metallic scale clashes were believed to dispel malevolent forces. Even today, its presence is associated with driving away danger. Many artists in the Pokémon world depict it atop volcanic cliffs, scales ringing like ceremonial bells in the wind, as though announcing its dominion. Kamo-o's fighting, dragon typing, is one of the rarest combinations in the series and perfectly reflects its lore. Dragon-type Pokémon often symbolize ancient strength and natural majesty, while fighting-type Pokémon represent willpower, discipline, and training. Together, they create a creature whose identity is not about uncontrolled ferocity, but about refined power. Komo-o isn't a berserker. It's a seasoned warrior, strategic, thoughtful, and relentless. Even its posture conveys this combination: upright, proud, but always ready to strike. Its scales, which function as both armor and weapon, are among the toughest natural materials in the Alola region. The Pokédex notes that Kamo-o has a habit of turning its back on opponents it considers unworthy, exposing them to the full armor plating as a sign of disdain. This isn't carelessness, it's confidence. To a Kamo-o, turning away from a weak challenger isn't a vulnerability. It's a declaration that the opponent poses no threat worth raising its claws for. Stronger rivals, however, receive its full focus, and when that happens, the echoing clash of scales marks the beginning of a battle that feels more ritual than combat. In competitive Pokemon play, Kamo-o is one of the most flexible pseudo-legendaries. While most pseudos lean toward brute force or overwhelming offense, Kamo-o blends bulk, power, and utility. Its access to a wide variety of moves, Dragon Dance, Clanging Scales, Close Combat, Earthquake, Iron Head, Flamethrower, and Stealth Rock, enables it to shift between roles depending on the team. But nothing cemented Kamoo's competitive identity more than the introduction of its exclusive Z move, Clangorous Soul Blaze. Clangorous Soul Blaze is one of the most thematically fitting moves in the franchise. When activated, Kamoo unleashes a resonating shockwave created from its scales, a thunderous blast that boosts all of its stats at once. This isn't merely a power spike, it's the culmination of the lore that surrounds Kamoo, a warrior reaching its spiritual apex, surrounded by the echoes of its own glory. For many players, seeing Kamoo execute its Z move for the first time remains an unforgettable moment. Few moves capture a Pokemon's personality and history so completely. Kamoo's physical design draws inspiration from several sources, including armored warriors, pangolins, and even Polynesian ceremonial dress. The layered scales resemble both natural plating and stylized armor, suggesting a creature that evolved for battle but incorporated cultural significance along the way. The gold-colored scales around its head resemble a crown, symbolizing leadership among its evolutionary line. Its tail, heavy with reinforced plates, acts as both a stabilizer and a deadly whip, and its claws, though not as prominent as those of other dragon types, are sharp enough to carve into volcanic stone. Among Alolan Pokémon, Kamoo is often portrayed as one of the most intelligent pseudo-legendaries, second only to Metagross in sheer cognitive ability. But Kamoo's intelligence expresses itself differently, not through calculation or problem solving, but through emotional awareness and experience. It reads opponents by rhythm, watching how they breathe, how they move, and how their energy shifts as the battle progresses. Ancient trainers claimed that experienced Kamoo could hear an opponent's resolve. Whether literal or poetic, the idea matches its thematic identity. Strength determined not just by physical ability, but by the spirit behind it. The ecology of Kamoo adds another fascinating layer. These Pokemon often inhabit remote mountain craters formed by old eruptions. The naturally concave shape of these craters amplifies sound, allowing Kamoo to train its signature clang techniques. Young Hakamoo gather in small groups within these craters to spar, the echoing metallic crashes serving as both training and communication. Fully evolved Kamoo, however, tend to isolate themselves, living solitary lives unless seeking to protect territory or offspring. Their solitary nature doesn't stem from aggression, it stems from tradition. A warrior trains alone to strengthen the mind as much as the body. Kamoo's spiritual significance in Alola might be second only to the Tapu Guardians. While the Tapu represent nature, blessings, and the islands themselves, Kamoo represents perseverance. Its presence in the vast Pony Canyon is no accident. That region has historically been a place of trials, growth, and personal transformation. The fact that Kamoo appears in the final trial of the Island Challenge symbolizes the culmination of a trainer's journey. Facing Kamoo in the totem fight means proving not just strength, but discipline, endurance, and readiness to become a champion. Another compelling detail is that Kamoo's totem form is significantly larger than average, with scales that glow brightly before unleashing attacks. This glow may hint at an internal energy reserve, possibly linked to the resonance of its scales, that gives Totem Kamoo enhanced physical presence. It's as if the totem variant carries the combined echoes of its ancestors, becoming an embodiment of lineage and legacy. Kamoo's musical identity also connects to Alola's real-world inspirations. Many Pacific Island cultures use percussion instruments made of wood, bone, or shell to accompany dances and ceremonies. Kamoo's scale clashing mimics those rhythms, tying it into the region's themes of storytelling through sound. This design philosophy reinforces that Kamoo isn't just a fighter, it's a performer, a ritualist, a guardian whose battles are ceremonies honoring generations of warriors. Fans have long speculated about Komoo's potential ties to dragon mythology beyond Alola. Its affinity for ritual combat and its scaly armor resemble depictions of Eastern dragons as wise, disciplined guardians rather than chaotic beasts. Others see influences from medieval knights, with Kamoo acting as a dragon wearing armor rather than being hunted by knights themselves. This hybrid inspiration gives Kamoo a unique position among pseudo legendaries, a creature that bridges mythical traditions from multiple cultures. Kamoo's animations in Pokémon Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon highlight its expressive warrior nature. When it enters battle, it performs a rhythmic clashing of scales, announcing itself with pride. When victorious, it often raises its arms in a ritualistic gesture, as if acknowledging the worthiness of the challenge. When defeated, its posture remains upright, reflecting a warrior's dignity even in loss. These animations reinforce the idea that Kamoo's identity goes beyond stats and moves. It has culture, personality, and values. In more modern titles like Scarlet and Violet, Kamoo's textures and movements look even more refined, showcasing the metallic sheen of its scales and the weight of each limb. Its battles feel slower and heavier than other dragon types, emphasizing its deliberate fighting style. Where Garchomp darts like a missile and Salamence swoops like a predator, Kamoo stands like a fortress, a living shield that strikes only when ready. Even among fans, Kamoo has earned a reputation as one of the most underrated pseudo-legendaries. Some players initially overlooked it due to Alola's mixed reception, but over time, appreciation has grown significantly. Artists love drawing its intricate scales, competitive players respect its versatility, and lore enthusiasts admire how deeply its design reflects Alola's themes. In many ways, Kamoo represents the heart of its region better than any other non-legendary Pokémon, a being shaped by volcanoes, echoes, and ancient tradition. Its pre-evolutions also contribute to the narrative. Jangmo-o, small and determined, embodies pure ambition. Hakamoo reflects training and discipline. Komoo represents mastery. Few evolutionary lines portray a full character arc this clearly. Raising a Komoo feels like watching a story unfold, from a hopeful beginner to a seasoned guardian. That storytelling through evolution is something Game Freak excels at, and Komoo might be one of their finest examples. In battle lore, Komoo's roar is said to shake the earth, but not because of sheer volume. The sound resonates through its scales like a tuned instrument, creating vibrations that travel across stone and soil. Some believe Kamoo can sense danger through these vibrations, reading the land the same way it reads the battlefield. This trait links Komoo to the natural world in a deeply sensory way, reinforcing its identity as a Pokémon not just of strength, but of awareness. Even its name reflects this nature. Kommoo likely draws from commotion, combat, and Komodo dragon, combined with a rhythmic, chant-like structure that evokes ritual. Spoken aloud, the name sounds like something that might echo through a canyon, fitting for a creature defined by sound. Its shiny form adds another layer of beauty. The normally gold accents turn silver, giving it a colder, more ceremonial appearance. Instead of fiery determination, shiny Kommoo resembles a stately warrior preparing for a sacred rite. Some fans even argue that shiny Kommoo looks more like an ancient dragon deity, its silver scales reminiscent of polished armor or moonlit stone. Despite its calm wisdom, Kamo isn't above passion. When facing a truly worthy opponent, it fights with exhilarating intensity, unleashing combos of dragon and fighting techniques that feel like choreographed martial arts. Its typing allows it to wield elemental ferocity while maintaining disciplined form. Every move, from sky uppercut to dragon tail, reflects deliberate intent. Kamo's influence in Alola's culture appears in clothing, architecture, and ceremonial dances. Some performers wear layered scale-like costumes that mimic its armor. Others use metallic instruments to recreate its iconic clangs. It's a Pokemon whose presence shaped not just ecology, but identity. As the final pseudo legendary before the introduction of Dragapult in Generation 8, Kamo-O stands out as one of the most thematically cohesive designs Game Freak has ever produced. It is ancient yet disciplined, fierce yet honorable, solitary yet significant to its region's traditions. Whether guarding volcanic mountain passes, performing its resonant rituals, or preparing for combat, Kamo-O embodies a perfect blend of culture, power, and storytelling. It doesn't roar for attention, it announces itself with purpose. It doesn't fight for glory, it fights to uphold legacy. And in a world filled with dragons of every shape and origin, Kamo-O remains utterly unique, a warrior forged in echoing stone, wearing its history like armor. Dragapult is one of the most unique pseudo-legendary Pokémon ever introduced, combining ancient history, ghostly biology, and aerodynamic mastery into a single creature that feels unlike anything that came before it. Originating from the Galar region, this dual dragon ghost type is believed to be the resurrected evolutionary line of an ancient prehistoric species known only through fossils and rare sightings. Everything about Dragapult, from its aerodynamic body to the spectral projectiles it launches, reinforces the idea that it exists on the threshold between life and death, a creature that continues its ancient habits long after its species faded from the world. Its design draws from both stealth bombers and extinct aquatic predators, giving it a sleek, arrow-like silhouette built for high-speed flight that borders on supernatural. Dragapult is known for its incredible velocity, accelerating so rapidly that its body becomes transparent mid-flight. This isn't simply artistic effect. Its lore indicates that its ghostly nature causes its molecular structure to partially phase out as it moves, allowing it to reach speeds beyond what would normally be possible for a physical creature. Witnesses in the Galar region report seeing faint streaks of energy cutting across the sky at dusk, but hearing no sound until several seconds later. These sonic-delayed sightings helped confirm Dragapult's ability to break the sound barrier with ease, making it one of the fastest Pokémon ever documented. Unlike many dragon species that rely on brute strength, Dragapult's power comes from precision and momentum, hitting its targets before they even know it's there. One of Dragapult's signature traits is its relationship with Dreepy, the infant form of its evolutionary line. While many dragon Pokémon are fiercely protective of their young, Dragapult takes this to a new level. It houses two Dreepy in the recessed launch bays on its head, treating them almost like living projectiles. Rather than harming them, Dragapult uses this as part of their training, launching them at high speeds in controlled bursts to help them grow stronger. The Dreepy themselves enjoy this process, eagerly nestling into place and waiting for the next flight. This behavior is an evolved remnant of ancient pack hunting strategies used by the species when it dominated the oceans. Dragapult continues this tradition even in its ghost form, suggesting that the instinct to raise and guide young transcends physical biology. Dragapult's pre-evolutions, Dreepy and Dracloak, reveal even more about its mysterious nature. Dreepy is said to be the ghost of an extinct prehistoric creature, barely able to interact physically with the world. It spends most of its time clinging to others for warmth and stability. Drakloak, the middle evolution, acts as a caretaker, watching over its dreepy companions with a seriousness unusual for a mid-stage Pokémon. Only when it evolves into Dragapult does it regain access to the full physical power of its ancient body. This mix of ghostly and corporeal traits is what defines the entire evolutionary line, creatures stuck halfway between extinction and rebirth, continuing ancient traditions in spectral form. Dragapult is deeply loyal to its trainer once bonded, but only if it senses strength, confidence, and emotional stability. Because of its ghost typing, it remains somewhat aloof to strangers, often fading partially into transparency when wary or uncertain. Trainers who form good relationships with Dragapult report that it becomes surprisingly affectionate, flying overhead, doing silent flybys, and even gently nudging its trainer with its spectral tail. But if threatened, Dragapult becomes a silent predator, vanishing from sight and striking with precise, devastating momentum. Its dual typing gives it access to a wide range of abilities, combining the unpredictability of ghost energy with the raw, destructive force of dragons. In competitive battles, Dragapult has been one of the strongest and most versatile pseudo-legendaries ever introduced. Its blistering speed stat makes it the fastest non-mythical dragon in existence, allowing it to outspeed and pressure opponents before they can act. It can operate as a physical sweeper, a special attacker, a support pivot, or even a bulky utility Pokémon, depending on the set. Moves like Dragon Darts, Shadow Ball, U-Turn, and Will-O-Wisp showcase its unique flexibility. Dragon Darts, in particular, is a signature technique that uses the Dreepy it launches to strike opponents in rapid succession, a move both flavorful and effective. Dragapult's unpredictability makes it a threat in nearly every format, and its presence alone shapes how competitive teams are built. Lore surrounding Dragapult suggests it once lived in ancient waters, hunting prey by launching its young like guided arrows. This behavior is reflected in its sleek, aquatic-inspired head shape and transparent tail, reminiscent of prehistoric marine reptiles. Even though Dragapult is a ghost type, traces of its ancient biology remain. The aerodynamic skull structure, the long fins, and the torpedo-like body all point to a creature that adapted to swift underwater pursuit before rising into aerial dominance in its ghostly rebirth. Its tail tapers into an ethereal, translucent wisp, hinting that only part of its present form is physical. The rest is pure ghost energy, shaped into memory of what it once was. Dragapult is also deeply tied to Galar's history, particularly ancient battlefields and forgotten ruins, where remnants of its species may have once lived. Some believe Dragapult's ghostly nature developed as a response to its species' sudden extinction, perhaps caused by environmental changes or ancient predators. The spectral energy that brought it back allowed Dragapult to maintain its ancestral instincts and body shape, even though the physical species no longer exists. This makes Dragapult an unusual pseudo-legendary, not the apex of a living lineage, but the lingering spirit of a creature long gone. Its existence is a fusion of past and present, a reminder of ancient ecosystems frozen in time. Trainers often describe hearing faint, whistling, or wind-like sounds when Dragapult glides overhead, even when it appears invisible. These sounds are caused not by wings, Dragapult technically has none, but by the rapid displacement of air against its streamlined body. At full speed, Dragapult becomes so aerodynamic that even its ghostly energy emits harmonics, producing an eerie song only those nearby can hear. This sound can be soothing or unsettling, depending on the listener, but most recognize it as a sign that a powerful, mysterious creature is watching from above. Dragapult's intelligence is one of its most underrated traits. It understands battlefield positioning instinctively, often acting before its trainer gives verbal commands. In the wild, Dragapult uses this intelligence to patrol wide territories, ensuring its young have safe areas to train. It rarely interacts with other Pokemon species unless provoked, preferring to remain hidden until it needs to act. When caring for Dreepy, Dragapult chooses very specific environments: quiet ruins, windy cliffs, or abandoned structures that echo the prehistoric habitats its species once lived in. Even its nesting behavior reflects memory rather than need, as ghostly instincts persist long after their biological purpose has faded. In battle animation and cinematic appearances, Dragapult often phases in and out of visibility, emphasizing its spectral nature. When using powerful dragon-type attacks, its body becomes more solid, as if channeling ancient physical power. When using ghost-type attacks, it becomes nearly transparent, a haunting silhouette streaking through the air. This duality makes Dragapult visually striking, a Pokemon that feels alive and dead at the same time, ancient, yet fast enough to outpace modern predators. Another fascinating detail is Dragapult's unusual habit of launching Dreepy even outside of battle. Some trainers observe Dragapult sending Dreepy into the sky at dusk, allowing them to glide before returning. This ritual seems to serve no practical purpose except enriching the bond between the Pokemon and its young. It also reinforces the dynamic of mentorship embedded deeply in Dragapult's evolutionary history. No other pseudo-legendary expresses parental care so actively or symbolically, making Dragapult one of the most thematically rich designs in the Pokemon world. Despite its ghostly nature, Dragapult has strong emotional ties to its trainer. It chooses who to trust carefully, but once that trust is earned, Dragapult remains loyal for life. Trainers describe Dragapult hovering protectively nearby, watching from above as a silent guardian. That loyalty is not fierce or possessive. It is calm, observing, always ready to act when needed. Its bond is strengthened through shared experience, particularly through movement. Dragapult responds well to being allowed to fly freely, glide in open spaces, or accompany its trainer during nighttime travels. It is a creature that values freedom and vigilance, a partner who watches the world in motion. Dragapult's design has also made it a fan favorite in merchandise, illustrations, and animated features. Its sleek appearance lends itself perfectly to dynamic poses, while its ghostly transparency opens endless creative interpretations. Its status as a pseudo-legendary ensures it remains iconic, but its personality ensures it remains beloved. Unlike some pseudo-legendaries that embody brute strength or overwhelming ferocity, Dragapult embodies precision, memory, and guardianship, qualities that resonate with fans looking for more than raw power. What makes Dragapult truly stand out among pseudo-legendaries is how seamlessly its lore, biology, behavior, and battle role come together. Every detail feels intentional. Every mechanic reflects a story. It is not simply a fast dragon or a spectral fighter. It is a living fossil, a ghostly parent, a high-speed predator, and a guardian that carries the remnants of an ancient world on its back, literally. Dreepy represent the past, Dragapult represents the present, and their flight together represents the continuation of a long extinct lineage in spectral form. In the end, Dragapult is a Pokemon defined by motion and memory, forever racing through the skies with the spirits of its ancestors, always watching from just beyond sight, a silent streak of energy that bridges the living world and the long-forgotten depths of prehistory. Its place among the pseudo-legendaries is unique, not because of overwhelming force, but because of its elegance, its mystery, and the way it carries not just young Pokémon, but the entire legacy of a species long gone. Baxcalibur stands as one of the newest pseudo-legendaries in the Pokémon world, and despite its recent introduction, it has already taken its place among the most iconic powerhouses ever created. As the apex ice type of the Paldea region, it represents a perfect blend of prehistoric ferocity and modern competitive design. Its imposing silhouette, massive dorsal ice blade, and cold, unwavering stare make it instantly memorable. Baxcalibur doesn't feel like a creature shaped by evolution alone. It feels like a living relic, a frozen titan that awakened to reclaim a world that has long since forgotten its dominance. When it roars, the sound vibrates with glacial energy, powerful, ancient, and absolute. One of the defining aspects of Baxcalibur is its unusual typing. Pure ice-type pseudo-legendaries were unheard of before it, and this alone sets it apart from its predecessors. While ice is traditionally viewed as a more fragile defensive type, Baxcalibur subverts that expectation entirely by pairing its typing with tremendous offensive potential and a surprisingly solid stat spread. Its bulk is impressive for an ice type, and its attack stat pushes it to frightening power levels. In many ways, it embodies the idea of an ice-type juggernaut, durable enough to withstand punishment, and ferocious enough to retaliate with catastrophic force. Its signature ability, Thermal Exchange, is one of the most flavorful and mechanically interesting abilities introduced in Generation 9. Rather than being weakened by fire like most ice-type Pokémon, Baxcalibur gains strength whenever it's hit by fire-type moves, receiving a boost to its attack stat. This completely rewrites the traditional matchup narrative. Instead of fearing fire types, Baxcalibur can intentionally bait them to become even more dangerous. Thematically, this ties beautifully into the concept of extreme cold meeting extreme heat, a creature so frigid that flames only harden its resolve. And since it's immune to burn thanks to thermal exchange, Baxcalibur never has to worry about the one status condition that cripples physical attackers. Another defining move is Glaive Rush, the centerpiece of its offensive identity. This dragon-type move hits with devastating power, making Baxcalibur one of the most fearsome sweepers in the entire Paldean ecosystem. While it leaves Baxcalibur more vulnerable afterward, the sheer damage it deals often makes the drawback irrelevant. Trainers who use it effectively understand that Baxcalibur's strength lies in controlling tempo, strike hard enough, fast enough, and decisively enough that opponents simply cannot recover. Glaive Rush embodies that philosophy perfectly, overwhelming force with an all-or-nothing mindset. Visually, Baxcalibur draws inspiration from multiple influences: theropod dinosaurs, crocodilian forms, and most notably, Godzilla-like kaiju. Its back spine works like a living sword, a massive shard of ice capable of absorbing heat and channeling energy. In battles and animations, Baxcalibur often leans forward so that its icy dorsal blade becomes a primary offensive tool, adding a unique silhouette that sets it apart from every pseudo-legendary before it. This design carries a subtle nod to classic kaiju tropes: immense posture, pronounced back spines, and an aura of unstoppable force. Its pre-evolution line reinforces this prehistoric feel. Frigibax and Arctibax resemble small reptilian creatures adapted to icy climates, showing clear evolutionary structure. As Arctibax grows, its backblade begins forming into the monumental structure seen on Baxcalibur. This visual storytelling makes the final stage feel earned, a natural progression rather than an abrupt transformation. Trainers often grow attached to the line because watching it evolve feels like witnessing a dormant titan reach its full potential. Despite being a towering ice-type powerhouse, Baxcalibur isn't portrayed as mindlessly aggressive. In lore, it is calm, watchful, and focused, a predator that doesn't waste energy. It only strikes with precision, conserving its strength for the exact moment of opportunity. When provoked, however, its power erupts with terrifying intensity. The Pokédex describes it as a Pokémon that uses extreme cold to freeze foes instantly, overwhelming them before they can react. This creates an image of a hunter that blends stealth with absolute offensive dominance, a combination rarely seen in ice types. Baxcalibur's name is a clever fusion of Excalibur, referencing the legendary sword, and words like back or dorsal, referring to its spine blade. This gives the name a double meaning, both a sword-backed dragon and a mythical weapon incarnate. It's a fitting title for a Pokémon designed to feel legendary even outside of legendary status. Its alternate names in other languages contain similar references to blades and ice, reinforcing the shared symbolic identity of a cold, cutting force. In competitive play, Baxcalibur quickly became one of the defining forces of early Paldean battles. Players gravitated toward it because of its sheer versatility. Dragon Dance builds for sweeping, choice band sets for wall breaking, bulky sets capitalizing on thermal exchange, and even priority-based sets using Ice Shard to clean up weakened foes. The ability to break through common defensive cores with raw power made Baxcalibur a central Pokémon in many teams. It filled a niche no other pseudo-legendary had filled before, the role of an ice-type sweeper that doesn't fold instantly to common threats. Its Terra potential also amplified its strength. Terastallizing into ice grants even more destructive power to its stab ice moves, allowing Baxcalibur to punch holes through virtually anything not resisting it. Terra Dragon turns Glaive Rush into an earth-shattering weapon. Terra Water becomes a defensive adaptation that patches up the ice-type weaknesses. Few Pokémon gain as much flexibility from the Terra mechanic as Baxcalibur, making it a standout competitive threat. Even outside of battle, Baxcalibur stands out in the cultural identity of Paldea. Trainers in the region view it as the pinnacle of cold-adapted Pokémon, a symbol of survival and strength in harsh environments. Children tell stories of Baxcalibur roaming ice-capped mountains, carving paths through blizzards with its back blade glowing in frosty light. Artists depict it as a guardian of frozen ecosystems, an apex creature whose presence ensures balance. That blend of majesty and raw power gives Baxcalibur an aura normally reserved for legendary Pokémon. Its relationship to past pseudo-legendaries is also fascinating. While dragons like Salamence and Dragonite emphasize aerial mastery, and Pokémon like Metagross and Tyranitar emphasize terrestrial dominance, Baxcalibur introduces a new archetype, the Ice Titan. Its entire design philosophy centers around reversing expectations. Ice is typically frail, but Baxcalibur is bulky. Ice struggles against fire, but Baxcalibur grows stronger when burned. Ice types often rely on special attacks, but Baxcalibur is a physical monster. This contrast creates a fresh, compelling identity that stands solidly alongside its predecessors. The move Icicle Spear being boosted by Baxcalibur's ability to generate intense cold from its throat also recontextualizes its biology. Instead of breathing traditional icy breath, Baxcalibur launches compressed blasts of frozen energy with enough speed and force to strike consecutively. Its internal cooling system is described as extremely advanced, capable of dropping its body temperature instantly to enhance its power. This gives depth to its lore, transforming it from a simple large ice type to a creature that weaponizes extreme cold with tactical efficiency. Some fans interpret Baxcalibur's dorsal blade as a kind of biological cryoreactor, a structure that stores excess cold until it reaches dangerous density. When Baxcalibur unleashes powerful attacks, this blade glows intensely, releasing built up frost energy in controlled bursts. This idea ties into both gameplay and lore, explaining how it can produce such overwhelming ice type power despite being physically oriented. Interestingly, unlike most pseudo legendaries that have companionship or pack dynamics, like Garchomp's territorial networks or Dragonite's empathetic social groups, Baxcalibur is depicted as a lone apex predator. It doesn't need to cooperate with others because its raw strength allows it to survive alone. Yet, despite this independence, Baxcalibur is surprisingly loyal once bonded with a trainer. It responds strongly to trust, becoming fiercely protective. The contrast between its solitary nature and its loyalty creates a rich emotional character, one that fans have quickly grown attached to. The competitive community has created countless memorable stories involving Baxcalibur. Many players recount moments where their Baxcalibur survived hits it had no business living through, only to sweep entire teams afterward. Others share clips of it using Dragon Dance into Terra Ice Icicle Spear to demolish walls like Garganackle or Dondozo. These stories reinforce its identity as a pseudo-legendary that thrives on dramatic momentum, a Pokémon that turns battles around through sheer force of will. Baxcalibur's place in fan culture has expanded quickly. Its kaiju-like appearance makes it popular in artwork, animations, and theory discussions. Some fans compare it to cinematic monsters, while others portray it as a noble ice guardian. Its sleek design also lends itself well to plushes and figures, and it has already become a favorite among collectors, despite being such a new addition to the series. In the broader history of pseudo-legendaries, Baxcalibur represents the natural next step in regional design, a monster that feels ancient yet modern, powerful yet elegant. It shows that Game Freak is still willing to experiment boldly with the pseudo-legendary formula, challenging expectations rather than repeating them. By making the newest pseudo a pure ice-type dinosaur kaiju hybrid with a sword on its back, they pushed the boundaries in a satisfying way that honors past pseudos while carving a new identity for Generation 9. Ultimately, Baxcalibur is a Pokemon defined by its contradictions: cold but fierce, solitary but loyal, simple in typing but complex in design. It is a titan of frost, a living blade, a juggernaut that walks the snowy peaks with quiet authority. And just like Dragonite, Metagross, Garchomp, Hydreigon, and the others before it, Baxcalibur will stand as a lasting symbol of its generation: unmatched power, incredible style, and a presence so unmistakable that it earns its place in the pantheon of pseudo legendary greats.